So type 2 problems are pretty much the opposite of type 1 problems. In the type 1, we have an x and a y and we get a resultant. In type 2, we have a resultant and we find the x and y that add up to make it. So we're using the same kind of information, we're just going in the opposite direction. Again, the first step is to draw this, to visualize the x and y that add up to make this. You don't have to draw the x first, but again, it will make it much easier to check your work against mine because I'm always going to do it that way. So you start at the origin of the vector in whichever way you go. And you draw an x, and then head to tail a y. And now this drawing looks pretty similar to what we had before. X equals adjacent, because our theta is always here at the origin, and y equals opposite. We're told that it's at 30 degrees. Now remember that this 30 is going to tell you the answer in unit circle. So you have to think about the unit circle. And I'm just going to sketch it little here. We know 0, 90, 180, 270. And so this angle here is 30 degrees. So our theta inside of our triangle is 30 degrees. It's important to do this step because unless it's in this quadrant, your unit circle is going to be larger than 90, and you can't have an angle in a triangle larger than 90. So you have to make sure you're putting it into or taking it out of unit circle. So now we know two pieces of information, our theta and our hypotenuse, and we're solving for adjacent and opposite. Now it's just a trig ratio problem. If we remember SOHCAHTOA, if we want the opposite and we have hypotenuse, we're going to do SO. And if we want adjacent and we have hypotenuse, we're going to do COT. I like to do x first. The cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine of 30 degrees is equal to x over 5. Please make sure your calculator is in degrees. For cosine of theta, you should get about 0.87. So if you didn't, you're not in degrees, you're in radians. And when you multiply that by 5, you get 4.3. So 4.3, but these are vectors. You must have a direction. So we have to think, which direction is this x arrow pointing in? We have our unit circle here. It's pointing at 0 degrees. So we'll say at 0 degrees. When you're finding x and y components, it's easier because there's only 4 directions available. And you can call them 0, 90, 180, or 270, or you can call them east, north, west, and south. I say go with whatever coordinate system you are given your initial theta in, or your initial direction in. So our x is 4.3 at 0, and for y, we're going to do the sine of theta, so is opposite over hypotenuse. So the sine of 30 is equal to y over 5, and y equals 2.5. And again, we have to talk about direction. So we have 2.5 at, and if we look at our little unit circle, our y is at 90 degrees. So these questions will always have two answers, or two parts to its answer, so make sure you circle both of them.